Hello, F2 Fan 5000 here with Formula E Madrid E-Prix driver ratings, Jarama circuit, and there's a couple of things I want to talk about after the ratings, but let's start with the ratings. Nissan, Oliver Rowland gets a 5. He gets a fucking bullshit penalty for who knows what, has a drive-through, takes him out of contention, so 5. It's amazing that in the commentary, Karun Chandok said that this has nothing to do with something that Rowland would have done himself from inside the cockpit. So trying to understand why it's a drive-through penalty is, and I don't think anyone understands why it's a penalty. It's ridiculous, but that's the way it is, unfortunately, in Formula E. You get these penalties, they say, energy spike, as if somehow the driver has some control over that, and I don't think they do, and no one really understands, or technical infringement. And we'll get to Zane Maloney later. Who knows why he got a drive-through? No one really knows. Anyway, Norman Nato gets a 2. Yeah, okay, you can qualify well, but come the first corner, you're off in the gravel trap, throwing it away. So what's the point of qualifying well? 2 out of 10 for Norman Nato. Coming to Porsche, we have Pascal Wehrlein. He gets a 10. In the early stages of the race, a fantastic side-by-side battle between him and Ticktum. And then in the closing stages of the race, the same thing. In fact, I'm going to give Pascal Wehrlein the full 11 points. He got Dan Ticktum out of the final corner, and so many times he was side by side with another car there in tight spaces, and he could have crashed, and he didn't. It's not like the driver that actually won the race, who was able to cleanly drive off and benefit from strategy. Wehrlein had to fight practically every corner for the first third of the race and the last third of the race. Every corner battling, and he didn't make any driver errors. That is a fantastic job by Pascal Wehrlein. Nico Müller got some minor points, so I've given him a 6 out of 10, but compared to his teammate, you hardly notice that he's there, especially on a weekend like this. Antonio Felix da Costa, the Jaguar team was the masters of strategy this weekend, and da Costa gets a 10 out of 10, a fabulous win. I don't want to take anything away from him. He had a lot to deal with at the end, but as we know, his teammate was asked not to attack him. So at the end, he doesn't really have to battle too much to take the win. So I won't give him an 11, but he still gets full marks for 10. And Mitch Evans also gets a 10. I don't think he had the most competitive strategy. He was the last driver of the lead bunch to pit, and he still came out and finished second in the race. So that's quite fantastic. And coming to the Andretti team, Jake Dennis gets a 7 out of 10. Quality points for 7th place. Nothing special, hardly saw him all race. Felipe Drugovich, very poor qualifying, and in the race, a poor strategy, and I give him 3 points, a 3 out of 10. No points this weekend for Felipe Drugovich, and he's been very disappointing so far in Formula E. Come to the Penske team. Maximilian Gunter gets a 3. He was up in the battling at the top, but he burned out his battery, used up the energy, and he's fallen. Well, he fell well outside the points. Down in 13th place. But Taylor Barnard gets a 1 out of 10. A dreadful weekend. When he first came into Formula E, he was a star. And even earlier this year, he could qualify well. But this weekend, clattered into the side of John-Eric Verne. that was a deserved penalty. I don't know if I'd give him 10 seconds for that. Probably just give him 5. But, you know, that penalty was fully deserved. And then on top of that, he's qualified poorly. He never really looked like a threat for points. So he's gone backwards. I don't know what's happened. I don't know what is happening at the Penske team either. And then at Citroën, life is not starting out well. They have one of the form drivers and they have a veteran. So Jean-Eric Vergne, the veteran, gets a 3 out of 10. Man and machine. Disappointing. Up in the point for a while, then dropping down in the final stages. And Nick Cassidy also gets a 3. Poor strategy from the team. Poor strategy from Cassidy. And he was in fighting for the race lead. And he's ended up in 17th behind Oliver Rowland. Oliver Rowland had a drive through and he's ended up behind Oliver Rowland. 3 out of 10. And Nick De Vries, the Mahindra team, Nick De Vries gets a 0 out of 10. Actually, I think he deserves a -5. Absolutely. People understand that Nick De Vries had a very tough time in 2023, but he has a nice car in Formula E. Put it on the front row, and that was a brain fart move, ruining his reputation. I can't see a world where, you know, top teams in Formula E in the future will want to sign him when he can't bring the car home. He can't convert pace into a good result. That was a complete brain fart, and he almost ruined Pascal Wehrlein's race as well. Ruined his own, lost the wing, got the penalty, a deserved penalty. Though, you know, the car damage is penalty enough. And his teammate Eduardo Mortara is absolutely steamrolling Nick De Vries. Another good result. Top 5 finish for Mortara in the end. He didn't qualify so well this time, but he's come through the race quietly, unnoticed, finished 5th. He's the most consistent driver this season so far. And I think the Envision team now, Sebastian Buemi, he gets an 8 out of 10. The car wasn't that fast in qualifying, but he's come through for some good points in 6th place. He was briefly fighting for the lead of the race, but that fell off fairly quickly, but he's held on for 6th place. And his teammate Joel Eriksson gets a 6 out of 10. He scored the final point, but he's behind his teammate Buemi. Okay, Cooper Kiro, Dan Ticktum, hero of the day for me. So many side-by-side action and never once put it in the side of another car, causing damage, none of that. So fantastic, 10 out of 10 for Ticktum, no doubt about that. He's finally coming good in Formula E, fantastic wheel-to-wheel racing. And Pepe Marti gets a 7. The strategy to go earlier on the energy and then to go long before the pit stop, that did backfire, but he still scored a couple of points. He always manages to score points. He's been very consistent. I think he's the only rookie or one of 2 rookies, but he's doing a great job so far. So he gets a 7 out of 10. Coming to the beleaguered apt Yamaha team, Lucas Di Grassi gets a 6. He fought hard, but no points in the end. Zane Maloney, you know, another bullshit penalty. No one knows why he gets the penalty. We got 5 out of 10. Race completely ruined before it began. And it was a shame. He was running in the top 10 on the first lap. And that brings me to the thing, right? So there's 2 sides to what I want to say about Formula E. I actually have a lot of praise, but my 2 biggest gripes are the endless penalties, penalty this, penalty that, penalty. and no one knows what the penalty's for. They just say technical infringement or power spike or some. I think Nick De Vries got a penalty, pit infringement, whatever. Who knows what this stuff is about? No one knows. And it's frustrating week in, week out to be wondering what's happening, and the result doesn't really feel satisfactory when you understand that the result is being heavily changed, or certain drivers are being taken out of the equation because of penalties. And they're not 5-second penalties, they're drive-throughs, they're stop and goes. It really ruins the driver's race, but we don't know why they're happening. The other thing is this attack mode activation, completely trying to... Okay, I don't want to say it's completely lost, right? It's complete loss, right? But the thing is, I feel as though in Formula E, the racing is really good, even without differences in attack mode. You saw Ticktum and Wehrlein and Mitch Evans and Nick Cassidy towards the start. It's going side by side through chicanes. It was fantastic racing. And then in the middle of the race, it's all about who's going to... the pit stops are ridiculous, right? These cars, these Formula E cars already have the ability to go that race distance without a pit stop. So why have the pit stop? It's just it's a gimmick, and the other gimmick is the attack mode. They spend the whole middle of the race talking about who's in attack mode, who hasn't taken attack mode, and to me that's just... Formula E was more interesting without attack mode. Anyway, there's not much we can do about that now, but recently we had the Spanish Winter Championships race at this very circuit, and Formula 3 level cars, the Dallara 26 something, Euro Cup 3, and they can't overtake. They even struggle. I think in Spanish Formula 4 they could overtake, but in the Spanish Euro Cup 3 Winter Series they couldn't overtake. But Formula E, the cars can overtake. There's no problem at all. So that shows you that Formula E and battery-powered racing is always going to allow you to go to classic racetracks and put on a good race where there are plenty of overtakes, plenty of close racing. As for the Formula E Championship, in terms of rounds, this is actually the halfway point. We've had 6 weekends and then there's another 6 to go. But in terms of the points available, because we've only had 1 double header so far, and now there are another 5 double headers, so we're in terms of the points, we're about 1/3 the way through the championship. So it's still wide open. But lately I feel like Antonio Felix da Costa and Mitch Evans, the Jaguar pair, they look to be on form. Pascal Wehrlein's doing a good job. Mortara, he's been very consistent. The other drivers have really come out of contention, right? So Nick De Vries always has an incident. Nissan, Roland can't get it together. Cooper Kiro, yes, but only now and then. So it's very up in the air, but I think we can see who the title protagonists are, and it should be a good battle. And I'm looking forward to the next race.